Hey fellas, your commissioner here, coming at you for a little week 11, week 11 of NFL action. Um, of course, silly me. I knew clearly me talking about the people, the group, I guess, that I said I wasn't going to talk about again the rest of the season. I talked about them last week, and they proceeded to just really kind of shit all over themselves on Saturday. So we're not going to talk about them again. Basketball team, 2-0 since the last time we met. One very good victory after a little bit of a slow start. One's a little shaky, couldn't put Old Dominion away, but, hey, they got hot. A lot of those looks were wide open, but still, they made some tough shots. Whatever. We won. It is what it is. We didn't move up in the rankings. Somehow Texas A&M jumped us. I don't know why. Don't know who they've beaten. A&M, whatever. Hey, Brody, no. They're not a good team, but we'll get our chance to play them and beat them here in a few short weeks. So, anyways, yeah, fellas, I can't believe it. Week 11, there's only 4 games left in the regular season. We're coming down to it. It just feels like just yesterday that I sat down to do the draft recap video, and we just got done with Phoenix, and here we are, 10 and a half weeks later. It's quite crazy how quickly these seasons just continue to go by and go by. All that waiting, and we're halfway through the regular season of real football. We're 75% of the way done with our regular season in fantasy. And, just cherish this last month, fellas. Cherish November because, after these 4 weeks, a lot of y'all aren't playing for anything anymore, other than maybe not win horse ass. But, it looks like the champion might already be kind of locked up. And, I can't believe it. I was looking at a stat the other day. It said, Russell Wilson was tied for fifth in the league with 16 passing touchdowns. I was like, damn, that's a lot, And I was like, well, not really. It's been 10 games already, or 9 games at that point. So, yeah, I don't know where the time has gone, but it is flying by. So, anyways, let's go ahead here and get into a recap of last week's games. Start off here with our mini Tootsie Pop game of the week. Came prepared this time, didn't I? Between the McCockners and the Dirty Birds of War. JD ends up winning 133-116 to run his win streak up to 4 games now. Get to 6-4 after starting the season 2-4. Conversely, Plunk falls to 4-6. Has lost 4 straight after starting the season 4-2. So really a tale of two cities here, tale of two teams. Plunk looked like he was one of the better teams in the league, maybe getting off to a 4-2 start. JD started off 2-4. Had 3 games sub 75, I think, in that first 4-game stretch, and or 6-game stretch rather, and he's really turned it around. He's really turned it around. A lot of that's got to be contributed to CeeDee Lamb's. He's been the best player in football the last month. Last 3 games especially. 41 points, 28 points, 39.5 points the last 3 weeks. He's been playing some bad teams, sure. Bad pass defenses anyway. But he very well could, if he keeps this up, end as the number 1 wide receiver on the season. Come the end of it, Gabe Davis, 2 catches, 56 yards is kind of what he does. And Njoku has been nice and solid these last 4 weeks for JD as well, double digits each of the last 4 games. He's played. The flex is a little bit worrisome. Of course, he picked up Brandon Cooks, didn't play him. He had 32 points on the bench. No Pierce, no T. Higgins. Last week, Higgins has already been ruled out, I believe, for tomorrow night as well. But, I mean, Rashad White's been incredibly hot these last few weeks. Moore has been kind of, fine-ish for a wide receiver, too. And Burrow's coming on now. So, 33, 27, 24 his last 3 games. So, see if the Bengals can get things straightened out. And for Plunk, not a bad game, right? I mean, 116, that's solid. It's going to get you a win maybe 7 out of 10 times. But he's really hurting for an RB2 at the moment. Should have that back in spades, and I think that'll vault him right back up into the mix with the elite teams. But, I mean, Keenan Allen, only wide receiver so far this season with 2 40-plus point games. Pittman has been incredibly solid as his wide receiver 3, really. I mean, one of the better wide receiver 3s in the league. Jamar, bad back, who cares, right? I mean, he had 23 points, cut a long touchdown there. But Cook has been, he looked like he had a lot of burst. I mean, he had a lot of burst. He fumbled early, fumbled again, picked it up. That was interesting to me. I guess it's under 2 minutes in the fourth quarters whenever you can't advance the fumble, right? But is that only if another team recovers it, or is it just like I'm unclear on that? But clearly, he fumbled, picked it back up, ran for another 30 yards. Would that not go back to the spot of the fumble? Is that only if it's under 2 minutes? Is it only if somebody else picks it up? I thought it was anybody. I thought it was any time in the fourth quarter. It shows I don't know ball. So, but he's got Kyler. Lamar's been a little bit, not a little bit. He's been very underwhelming. He's been very underwhelming the last 3 weeks. 14, 12, 16, and that's really, I think, a big part as to why Connor's on this 4-game skid that he's on. You throw in the fact that Moss has been continually getting less and less work every single week. He's had no Achane. Jonnu Smith finally showed what he truly is. Drake London's been up and down. Of course, that Atlanta offense stinks. But it's I think there's still hope for Connor to turn things around. Like I said, he's got Achane coming back. That's really the only running backs he's got. So, I mean, if something happens to him again, or if something happens to Cook, he's going to be right back in the same spot, unfortunately for him. But his 3 wide receivers are pretty good if they can get cooking. And stay cooking, rather. And if Lamar can get cooking, then there's still hope. But, I mean, Plunk's got to start winning now. I mean, he loses another 1 or 2 games, and he's done. I mean, he's done. So, all right, here, moving on. We got we had 1, 2, 3, only 3 teams under 100 points this week. So that was good. That was encouraging to see. And nobody truly bottomed out. I mean, everybody was over 80. But we'll get to my guy here in a minute. Start off here, Horse Ass defeats Concussion Protocol 118-91. This is a huge game for both of us. I was sitting at 4-5. Nick was sitting at 3-6. He really needed to win this to have any kind of hope of getting in the playoffs, sneaking in. Now he's lost 2 in a row to fall to 3-7. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult for young Nicholas to try to weasel his way in. Now it's still possible. He is looking ahead here. We'll get a little bit ahead of myself. His matchup this week, it's a must-win. It's just a must-win for him. 91 points. Honestly, it's pretty impressive that he even put up 91 points whenever you look at his quarterbacks less than 5 points. His 2 running backs barely combined to get 10 points. But he had a really nice day from McBride, had a really nice day from David Montgomery in his return. Demario Douglas had his best game of the season. Garrett Wilson had his best game of the season, I believe, as well. No Waddle. If Waddle plays, maybe it's a little bit closer, but probably not, because that means Tyreek and Tua play as well. And I don't have to start Alexander Madison. But it sucks for him because you look at his bench. I mean, Eli Moore had 15 points. Ferguson had 12, which he wouldn't have played him. That wouldn't have benefited him. But, Singletary had 23 points. QJ had 13. But, maybe with Stafford, he can get hot between T-Law and Stafford at quarterback. He gets Waddle back, so he can play Wilson, Waddle, and Pop. I don't think he wants to have to play Christian Watson. He's just not that guy. But I think really, for Nick, I don't know what's happened to him in this league the last couple years, but I really there's no other explanation other than Wilson stole his powers. It's either that or there was some ticking clause on the deal that he made with with the devil to get him all that fortunate, all that luck, all that winning that he happened to get early on in the league's tenure. It seems to have gone downhill for Nick. I don't think that it's very rare, maybe ever, that Nick's ever been 3-7 in this league. And it's sad. It's a sad sight to see. One of our great founding members, the assistant to the commissioner, one of my best friends, my best man. My best boy. He's my number one boy. To see him struggle like this, it's just tough. It hurts me a little bit. Now, another part of me is very happy to see this, and I'm thrilled that he's looking like he could miss the playoffs for the second year in a row, I believe. Brody, get away from there. It's not looking good. The sun's getting real low for Nick, and it's not looking good. And for Horse-Ass, I mean, you can't find a more consistent team over the last 4 weeks, rather. I've just been pumping out 115, 114 to 118 the last 4 weeks. Finally got me back in the win column, bust that 2-game skid that I was on. Desperately needed it. Javonte and JT, great game. Good to great games from them. Of course, the bye week fill-in of Heineke didn't really do anything for me. He got hurt. 55 passing yards. Woo! But somehow he still got 11 points. He had some rushing. He could have easily had a rushing score. He slid. Brother, you're the backup, man. Like, you've got nothing to lose. You put your ass on the line, and he ends up getting hurt anyway. It's just like, what are you doing, guy? Sell out for your team. But obviously, Hawkinson, career day for him. 30 points. That was huge. Devontae was solid. Tank Dell, great game. Madison got hurt, got concussed, wasn't doing much anyway. As he's prone to do against good rush defenses, he just doesn't do much. And Deontay, the Packers couldn't stop 5 Packers defense, couldn't stop the run. Najee and Jalen Warren had like over 200 yards, I think, maybe combined rushing. They just didn't need Pickett to do anything other than to manage the game. So that was unfortunate. Hopefully, once they play some better teams. And it was a close game. It was a competitive game, but they just could get anything that they wanted to on the ground. So I don't knock them. Of course, Romeo Doubs on the bench, touchdown. So that's sick. If anybody wants to trade for him, just please. He's gonna do good for you. He just doesn't do good whenever I put him in the starting lineup. But other people, I'm sure he probably would work out for you. I'll take a little running back for him, a little flyer guy. That's fine. Maybe Charbonnet for Dobbs. I don't know. We'll see. But I think it's going to be a very quiet trade deadline. We'll get into that here in a minute. But very quiet year for trades. It's been a very quiet last few years for trades. I think this year's been the most. We had Nick and Savoy's trade, Wilson and I's trade. I don't even know if we're going to have. I don't even know if there's been 4. Plunkin, Blaine's, and then Wilson and Blaine's trade. I think that's the only 4. Is that the only 4 we've had all season? I think it is. So, anyways, yeah, it's good to get a win. I needed it 5-5. Still more work to do, certainly, ahead. So, next here we got father figures and doesn't contribute. Ford breaks his, 5-game skid, whatever he was on, 5 games, I believe. To get to 3-7, Craig falls to 4-6 after, obviously he fell in the trap. He fell in the honeypot, right? He's riding high. One of the biggest upsets so far of the season. Him beating Blaine 2 weeks ago, last week. I get him mixed. I don't know how to, whenever he beat Blaine in week 9, right? But he falls 116 to 104. I mean, and hey, congrats, Ford. He gets over 100 points for the first time in over a month. After flirting with it very heavily the last 4 months, he finally stopped being a tease, pulled his pants down, and made it happen. But Brian Bijan, good game from him. Kenny Walker, he's getting his work, getting his snap, whatever. Like Charbonnet's getting all this extra work, but I mean, Kenneth Walker's still producing. Like he's getting less snaps, and he's been better for it. I think 19 points. Amari was okay, but now he's gonna have DTR throwing the ball. Yikes. Hollywood, yucky. And Kyler's return. Hopefully, that's not a sign of things to come. And Jigbo was just so-so. Mixon was fine. Then, you look at his bench, he doesn't have anything down there at all to really pick and choose from. So, I think this might have been a little bit of a fluke game for Josh. I think he's more going to be down there in the low hundreds. But he's in the same boat. I mean, he basically has to win out to even have a hope of making the playoffs. And I don't think that those prospects are looking too great for him. So, and then for Craig, 104. It's kind of, I put him in the super frauds category, right? Truth be told, he doesn't belong there because his team's not winning. His team is performing, and the record indicates kind of what his team is, which is just not a very good team. He hasn't scored over 110 points since week 5. 100 points, 84, 109, 104. And you go back a little bit further, 82, 90. He's got 3 weeks over 120. And he's got 4 weeks under 90, with a few around 100 sprinkled in there. So it's tough for old Craigley. He really needs to get something to work in here. I don't know what he does. He cuts Jaden Reed. I think that was a mistake. He got gobbled up. He plays Dotson. Dotson hurts him, right? He screws him. 0 points in a game that Washington scores 26 points, is throwing the ball all over the yard. Kyle Pitts is just not that guy. That was another trade, right? Nick and Craig, getting for Kyle Pitts. But Zay Flowers could have. I don't know if probably wouldn't have won the game, but it would have been a hell of a lot closer if Lamar could have hit Zay wide open. Would have been a 40, 50-yard touchdown, I think. But DK bounced back. That was nice to see. Ayuk had a solid game. Stevenson was solid as well. Jacobs was fine. Purdy, had his best game of the season. Am I right in that? Almost second best game of the season. But he didn't have Rashee Rice. He didn't play Keaton Mitchell. Doesn't play Trenton Irwin. He's got Kyron coming back soon, but I just don't I guess he's gonna have to go 3 running backs because Jacobs and Stevenson, Mondre, they're locked in. But I just don't know. Look at Ford, right? Ford's been having to start 3 running backs all season, and it's not really worked out well for him. I don't think that it's really a winning strategy in this league to be forced to start 3 running backs. You would ideally want to flip one of those. If you've got 3 guys that are legit good enough, you need to put them in. They're better than any other wide receivers that you could put in the flex. I say you flip them and you get a wide receiver who you could put in there, you know what I mean? Because there are plenty of teams that barely have 1 running back, let alone 2. But they might have wide receivers to spare. I don't know. I would love to go back and crunch the numbers one of these days just to see just the average starting lineup of how many running backs versus wide receivers, whether it's 4 wide receivers or 3 running backs, and how often teams went with those lineups and what their records ended up being. I think that'd be a very interesting thing to find out. So, anyway, it's a very, very analysis heavy, I feel like, State of the Union so far. I feel like I've not really dug into teams this detailed and maybe all season. So like to switch it up. I think the last few weeks I've been a little bit more fun and outgoing, and I think there's been good material for me. And now it's we're getting into it, guys. I mean, it's nut crunching time. So, yeah, I'll save that one for a second. So, anyways, the next matchup here, not the dog shit throw up all over themselves teams of the week, but matchup wise, this was the worst matchup, the lowest scoring matchup of the week, one of the lowest scoring matchups of the season. Rip is below 100 points for the second week in a row. He gets a win for the third week in a row. He earned the one against me, right? He puts up 140 against me, right? And then what's he do the next 2 weeks? He scores 93 points, and his opponent puts up 88. What's he do this week? He scores 93 points. His opponent puts up 87. His opponent puts up 87, and this is how you start 0-4 and somehow make the playoffs. Is you get lucky like this. I mean, you win 2 games that you shouldn't win because you scored below 100 points, and you don't ever deserve to win whenever you score below 100 points in this league. But hey, I've done it one time this season, and Savoy, for whatever reason, just loves losing to teams who score below 100 points. He's now 7-3, right? He's lost 3 times this season. He's lost to me whenever I scored below 100 points, and he's lost to Rip whenever he scored below 100 points. Now JD did beat him fair and square, put up 143 on his ass, but it just makes me sick. Both of these guys make me sick to see this. I mean, I don't know how you can keep getting away with this shit. Because 5-5, he's in the mix, guys. He is in the mix. And he very well could be dead. I mean, he should have lost each of the last 2 games he's played. He should be 3-7 right now instead of 5-5. But people let him off the hook. Hey, get out of there, dude. It stinks. And people just let him off the hook. They've let him off. Savoy clearly let him off the hook. He was down what? I think 13 points-ish going into Monday night. Had Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs' worst game so far this season before last night was 13.6 points. Enough to get him the win, I believe, or pretty darn close to it. And Diggs proceeds to go out there and drop 7.4 points and lose. And I told Savoy, I said, say the if you guys don't listen to me, I might not be able to manage my own team well, but I sure as shit can manage y'all's teams a lot better sometimes than even y'all can. Because I just know the league. I know the ebbs and flows. I can't get it to work for me. I don't have that luck. Whatever it is, I don't got that dog in me. I don't know. But eventually, y'all got to figure out. The old Commish sometimes knows your team better than you might know it yourself. And I told him, I said, you're going to bench Herbert this week. He's going to proceed to drop 30-plus points on your ass, on your bench. And it directly cost him a win. It cost him from being 8-2, 2 games up on anybody for the 1 seed, in full control of his destiny to get a first-round bye, to maintain that 1 seed, guarantees he's playing the worst seeded team left in the playoffs. And he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. And Gus Edwards did nothing other than get a touchdown. Aaron Jones went back to doing nothing. Terry McLaurin did nothing. Mark Andrews did nothing. He plays Irv Smith. Why do you play Irv Smith? There's somebody else better on the waiver wire than Irv Smith. There has to be. He gets cute, plays Irv Smith because he doesn't have Nico Collins. He doesn't have Josh Palmer. And it cost him. And he knows that. And ultimately, it doesn't really affect him. He's still 7-3, still very much in control of his destiny, still very much probably going to be in the playoff mix. But this team, it just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. It doesn't, because Olave only went off for 22 points whenever Jameis came in the game, right? But we know that's not going to happen. Dennis Allen loves I don't even know the words, the boring, mediocre, mid-ass quarterback that Derek Carr is, because that's what Dennis Allen is as a head coach. He's almost as bad as Arthur Smith. He's almost as bad as Arthur Smith. The whole NFC South, just some of the worst coaching in the NFL, some of the worst quarterback play in the NFL, and some of the best skill positions in the NFL. I mean, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, like all these elite guys, and all these terrible, terrible head coaches, mid quarterbacks everywhere in that whole division. And it's just a sad sight to see. It's a sad sight because, Olave is going to go back to putting up 10 points barely every week with Derek Carr. Or 15 points, whatever, 12 points. That's just what's going to happen. And for Rip, for him to be able to steal a win like this with all of his Eagles on bye, this should have been an auto L for Rip. No Jalen Hurts, no Dallas Goedert, no Devontae Smith. And he just, Debo's return got 16 points, and Sammy Howell 30 points. That got him the win. That got him the win because any other quarterback he would have picked up on the waivers this week would not have gotten it done for him. They just wouldn't have. And I blame myself because I had Sam Howell looking ahead because Tua and Jalen had the same bye. I was like, Sam against Seattle should be great, right? Should be a great matchup. And I ended up cutting him because I was doing other shit. And Rip was able to pick him up, stash him away for this bye. And it worked out for him. So, credit where credit's due for that. But, outside of Debo and Sam, it was just dog shit. It was just dog shit. So, for him to be 5-5, got his biggest bye week behind him, he's in a terrific position to be able to make a run and maybe make it the norm of starting 0-4 is the new starting 4-0. You're basically a lock to make the playoffs if you start 0-4. If two teams do it in back-to-back years. So, that just makes me sick. Oh, God, I hate it. And then penultimate matchup here. This is going to be a long video. Swamp Donkeys, Shade Dynasty. Shade's lost 3 in a row now to fall to 5-5 after starting the season 5-2. He has not looked very competitive lately either. Blaine wins 143 to 100. Nice bounce back win. You like to see that from Blaine. Now, D-Shade did double his point total from week 9, so that's encouraging to see, I guess, right? 50 to 100. If he does that next week, shit, he's first 200-point scorer on the season. But I don't know. It's a lot of up and down. He's had 142, right? That's a high benchmark on the season at week 7. And then 125, 50, 100. It's just a very inconsistent team. It's a very frustrating team, I'm sure, to be a part of. He's been pretty radio silent in the group me the last couple weeks. I guess ever since he dropped 50, and then, I've kind of been calling him out a little bit passive-aggressively and State of the Unions and power rankings and the group me, and, you can't handle it, leave. Like I said, I'm not here to hold anybody's hand. I'm not here to fake play nice with people. If you do something that I don't agree with or I think is silly or childish or your team shits on themselves, I'm going to call you out. And whenever your team does good, I'll give you your credit. I'll give you your due. Usually. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes Duncan. But it's just part of being in here, guys. It's part of being in here. I don't mean anything personal by any of it. I'm just calling a spade a spade. I like to you guys are all better than that. You all grown, just let's just not do stupid shit, right? So, but Pollard's been an embarrassment. He gets McCaffrey back. McCaffrey doesn't score a touchdown, still gets 20 points, right? That's tough to beat. Geno, he did stick with his guy in Geno, and great game from him. 30 points, his best game of the season. Addison's okay. Tyler Boyd's been great these last few weeks without T. Higgins. 16, 13, 8, 19 points. Very, very consistent production. Logan Thomas was a fine bye-week fill-in for no Kelsey. Michael Thomas. You okay, Cleo? You good? All right. Michael Thomas, got hurt. He got arrested like Saturday. and somehow still plays in the game and then gets hurt. It's supposed to be serious injury potentially. I don't know. That whole Michael Thomas is just a weird player. But his bench, whatever, it's kind of irrelevant other than Josh Dobbs. Still holding on to Mike Williams. Not really sure why. He's not going to play this year. You might as well just cut him. That always perplexes me why teams hold on to players who are 100% not going to be back this season, especially after the keeper is already passed. Especially after the trade deadline passes, because nobody's going to trade for him, which really you're not supposed to be doing those kind of trades anyway, so nobody should technically be trading for Mike Williams. But, for Blaine to put up 143 without A.J. Brown, without Puka, it's scary stuff, man. It's scary stuff. Josh Allen didn't even have a good game, 17 points, but Gibbs has been fully unlocked. Kamara had a bad game, still got 18 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30 points. Mike Evans, 26. Kincaid was great, 16. He has arrived. It looks like he has really come on very strong. Playing 6-4, only one game back from Savoy for that 1 seed, and he plays Savoy here very shortly. Very shortly. That's going to be a huge game of the week material if I've ever seen it. Right, and. But yeah, he's got Jalen Warren there too. Is solid. He's new RB1. Charbonnet's been good. Chuba's good. Outside of his wide receivers, really, outside of those top 4 guys, it's a little bit worrisome. But he's got 2 startable tight ends. This guy's good, man. I keep telling you, there's not a lot of holes in this roster, and if everybody stays healthy on this team, it's going to be tough to beat him. It's going to be tough to beat him. He's got these buys behind him now. I think all of his players' buys are done, and he might just rattle off 4 in a row to win or 5 in a row to end the regular season and get a first-round bye and a number 1 overall seed and win 2 games, and bada bing, bada boom, we got a back-to-back champ for the second time and third time maybe in league history maybe. So. And then that brings us to our dog shit team of the week. Throw up all over themselves. Too worried about wishing the leaves would stay a little bit longer. Jumping jobs, selling cats, selling mortgages, trying to just make it with his cats and his lady. Just bad team of the week. Wilson, the cataclysmic catches. Loses by over 100 points to the Kickers Lives Matter, 189-82. This is now the second week in a row that Wilson has been below 85 points. And finally, he didn't get a win. All right, week 9, he got a win somehow, some way. 84 points got him a win. This week, he's not so lucky. I guess water always finds his level. He had 50 points scored against him in week 9, 189 this week. And it makes me sick to see. Wilson faltered down the stretch last season as well after had a great start, sitting at the top of the league for a good little middle portion of the season. He's still in a very good spot at 6-4. He very easily could be 5-5, should be 5-5, just like Rip should be 3-7, but they're not, right? They're not. But it does inspire a lot of confidence. James Conner's first game back. Just so-so, no catches. Baker, obviously, bye week fill-in for Mahomes. He didn't have Mahomes, didn't have Swift, didn't have Kupp. So a little bit understandable. Brighter days are ahead with those guys. Buys behind them. Laporta's been a little bit, what the fuck, ESPN. I feel like, is this new, all these ads have been popping up in the ESPN Fantasy app lately. Is that new? Or has that been there all season? Because I feel like it hasn't until this week. It's been plastered with ads. But the Taysom Hill experiment finally ran out. Laporta, like I said, what was I getting at here? Laporta, 8 points. Not great. Brighter days are ahead for him. He's got a pretty good schedule the rest of the way. But D'Onta Foreman, great game from him, 17 points. Thielen was solid. But the wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired, especially without Kupp. Running back room's a little bit sketchy as well. But I think Wilson does have good pieces. I mean, he could very well be a playoff team, but he's gonna have to earn it. I mean, I think there's Savoy, Blaine, Duncan, and JD. I think right now for me they're locks, especially after this dominating performance that Duncan put up to get to 6-4. He's won 3 in a row now. Incredibly impressive performance. Every single player on his team was in double digits. He had 5 guys over 20 points. Kittle had 20 points. Najee had 18 points. Kirk was solid. Sutton was solid. Almost, he's getting close. I really wish Sutton could have got him to 200. But I think 189 is a new high water mark on the season. Dak Prescott, 45 points. He's just been phenomenal ever since D-Shade cut him. Eckler, solid 20 points. Brian Robinson's best game of the season, 27 points. Lockett at 23. He's back. He does this without Pacheco. Tajay Spears is solid. Noah Brown didn't start him, but he had another great game. J-Jet should be back here very soon as well. This is a legit team, guys. I mean, Duncan, as much as it pains me to say, Duncan's team is legit. It is a legit threat. And it potentially, when it's clicking like this, it's probably the best bet to be able to knock off Blaine, especially if Jefferson can come back healthy and producing at a high level, that he's capable of producing. It's going to be tough. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and he could honestly maybe even usurp old Savoy for that first round bye. So. Anyways, let's go ahead here, get into a recap of the waiver wire. Sneaky big waiver wire run this week. We're going to rip through the preview, so don't worry. I'm not going to go an hour on this video, but I thought it was nice to give a full, in-depth, detailed breakdown of everybody's teams. Start off here, obviously Ty Chandler was the big bell of the ball with Madison going to miss this week, more likely than not, with a concussion playing against the Broncos team who just got gashed by the Bills on the ground on Monday night. So JD, I guess he needed him, right? He's looking for somebody in that flex. Certainly could do a lot worse. I had 15 in on him. I mean, I would have had to spend my entire budget to beat JD, right? I would have had to spend all 30. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go to 0. I had 15 in on him. Not enough. Nobody else was in on Ty other than JD and myself. Jaden Reed was the other big guy. A lot of people were in on him. Blaine gets him for 13 fab. Rip was in for 8. Wilson was in for 7. I think I was in on him for 2. I had a lot of claims in, so it's kind of a lot of junk in here to sift through. Let's see. What else? Who else we got? I picked up Royce Freeman to give me a second running back that's actually going to play, because otherwise I wouldn't have had one. For 6 fab, nobody else was in on him. Whatever. I was trying to guarantee that I got somebody. I'm just really surprised that there's teams that need running backs, and nobody else was in on running backs other than JD and myself. I'm very curious. Blaine did try to pick up Rico Dowdle as a contingency in case he didn't get Jaden Reed. Savoy picked up Jalen Guyton. I think that's a sneaky good pickup for him, truthfully. I missed out on him. I had 3, lost a tiebreaker again because I'd already picked up somebody else. JD picked up Trenton Irwin for 2. Duncan picks up Conklin for 1. Blaine picks up Bateman for 1. And then I had a bunch of, Jerick McKinnon, Kenneth Gainwell, Latavius Murray, Rico Dowdle, just Samaje Perine, just a bunch of dart throws, making sure I got a running back. And then I picked up Tutu for 1, dropped Wandell. Sad to see. I really like Wandell. I think he's a good player. But Tutu, welcome back to the squad. So, like I said, trade deadline is it's tomorrow, around approximately 7:15 p.m. whenever the game kicks off. The cutoff for ESPN to make a trade was today at noon. So if you do want to make a trade, it's got to go through the group me, text somebody on the council. Just text me or text Nick if you don't want to put it in the group me. So that's how that will have to proceed with any trades. I don't think it sounds like, I've been in talks with a couple owners. Sounds like trade talks are pretty dead across the whole league. Everybody's just kind of content with what they got. So, all right, let's go ahead here, get into a preview of Week 11. Start off here, very big game for both of us. Not going to be the game of the week because there are a lot of really good matchups this week, a lot of really good ones, honestly. It's almost it almost makes me want to make the game of the week the two worst teams. But honestly, I think this is going to be a great week. One of the most competitive weeks. You win this week, you're going to put yourself in a really good position to make the playoffs, to better your chances. You lose this week, it's going to be tough sledding, I think. I think this is the week where the cream is going to rise to the top and kind of separate themselves. Starting off, I got Horse Ass versus Cataclysmic Catches. Wilson's projected to win 122 to 119. I've only got, I've got JT on bye, so he doesn't get to have his revenge against his drafted owner. Wilson does have Shaheed, Hunter Henry, Taysom Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster all on bye. But he should have Khalil back against a team that just got torched on the ground by the Chargers. He's got Kupp back in there. He's got Swift back in there. He's got Mahomes back in there. So, he's pretty much fully loaded. This is his best lineup, I think, that he can set. The guys are on bye or bench players. So we'll see if Connor, Kupp, and Laporta, have the revenge on me for trading them away. I'm sure they will. I just hope that Devontae and not JT, but Devontae can return it tenfold on JT's behalf. So I think it's going to be close. I think Wilson's obviously due for a bounce-back game after two 85-point performances. I don't think that that's what his team is an 85-point team. And I'm going to have to bring it to beat them. I'm going to need Tua and Tyreek to stop their bullshit and come back strong after the bye. I'm excited to see what McDaniels has cooked up, but I think, it's always scary. He's going to have two guys, Swift and Mahomes, on Monday night. Those guys could easily combine for 50 points, 60 points. So truthfully, no lead is safe. I need to be up 70 points, I think, to feel good about it going into Monday night, and I just don't know if that's going to happen. So I think Wilson's got a lot of good matchups, and I think he does beat me this week. So next here, we got Concussion Protocol, Father Figures, potential preview of the Horse Ass Bowl. Nick is projected to win 116 to 103. This is a loser leaves town game. It is. Whoever loses this game, they will not make the playoffs. That is a 100% guarantee. I don't think any team's made the playoffs with 8 losses. And I think Nick's going to just put the nail in Ford's coffin this week. So next year, Shades Dynasty versus the Dirty Birds. Dirty Birds are projected to win 117 to 102. He has not set his lineup yet. D-Shade hasn't. A little worrisome for me. Hope we're not teetering. Hope we're not. I'll just say that. So, still got Michael Thomas in there. He doesn't have Travis Kelce in there. Most likely, Logan's going to flip to the flex. Travis is going to go to the tight end 1 spot, and that's going to be his lineup. We're going to go plunk in that one to bust his 4-game losing streak and put D-Shade on a 4-game losing streak. That would be the best case scenario for me to get both these teams to 5 and 6. Just really muddle things up. Man, these cats just love taking shits and pisses whenever I'm sitting right here. I love it, don't they? Next here, we got Doesn't Contribute versus Suave Olave. Savoy's trying to bounce back. Craig's trying to bounce back from an embarrassing loss to they both have embarrassing losses, to be honest with you. Savoy lost to somebody who didn't break 100 points, and Craig lost to Ford, Savoy is projected to win 118 to 103. No Olave for him this week. No Algier. He's rolling out with Stroud boys again. I don't know. Gus Bus and the flex on Thursday nights. He does have Mostert back, but Diggs is going to be probably locked up on Sauce all night. Boy. Craig's just not shown me enough. No Pitts, no Stevenson. Craig picked up Conklin, not Duncan. I think I said Duncan did. We'll go with Savoy in that one. Penultimate matchup, Candy Field of Love versus McCockners. Two old roomies going at it. JD's projected to win 118 to 114. Two guys on very hot streaks, 1-3, 1-4 for Rip and JD respectively. I'm going to go with JD. I think JD stays hot, stays rolling. It just pisses me off that Rip's won 3 in a row. It really does. All right, then that brings us to our game of the week. Another two very, I think Blaine, regardless of how things stand, he is the best team in the league. Duncan is one of the hottest teams in the league behind JD, riding an extremely high scoring clip these last few weeks. Oh my gosh. It stinks, man. Blaine is projected to win 128 to 118. This might not even be close. I probably should have picked a better, a different game of the week. But I really think that this is going to be it. I think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, and the sponsor is going to be Black Forest, another mini gummy bears game of the week. Black Forest, so juicy, so good, made with real fruit juice, although it does have some artificial flavors in here. Units not labeled for individual resale. I don't have the bag that actually has the calorie counts and stuff on here, but it's got 5 fruity flavors, cherry, lemon, pineapple, and orange, and apple. W-H-I-T-E, right? So, they don't really taste like a lot. My personal favorite's probably the cherry flavor. I do like that. I don't really like 3 of the 5 flavors. They're kind of trash. And they're just kind of, I don't know, they're weird, but they're good, right? So juicy, so good, right? So anyway, Black Forest mini gummy bears, the official gummy bear of the Bring That Wood Fantasy Football League. You want to see if I can eat all these at once? Yeah, that was a good one too. I saw a lot of cherries in there. I don't know what was at the bottom, but All right, so battle of the quarterbacks. You got Dak Prescott versus Josh Allen. Josh Allen, against the Jets at home, he doesn't play well against the Jets. He doesn't. We'll see if the new firing Ken Dorsey makes a difference, but I'm going to go with Dak. It's just hard to pick against Dak the way he's been playing the last month or so. Battle of the running back, you got Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson versus Jalen Warren and Jamar Gibbs. Of course, Blaine does not have Kamara this week. He is on bye, so he's not quite out of the bye woods yet. I think this is his last big one. Or has Josh Allen had a bye yet either? Has he? I think they did. No, they haven't. So, yeah, still some, Blaine's going to be fine, though. This one's tough. I mean, I like Eckler and Gibbs about even. Chicago's run defense is not great. It's been better the last month or so. But New York stinks. The Giants stink. They can't stop anybody. We're going to go with Duncan in that one as well. Battle of the wide receiver. Here we go. Tyler Lockett, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton versus Puka, Mike Evans, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Got to go with my guy Blaine in that one. Battle of the tight end, Kittle and Kincaid. I think this one's close. I do think this one's very close. Kittle very rarely has back-to-back good games. Now he had the bye sandwiched in there, but 13, 25 bye and then 20 points. He's been pretty consistent, but I think he has a little bit of a letdown this week, and I'm going to go with Blaine with Kincaid in that one. And then battle of the flex, you got Noah Brown versus A.J. Brown. That's not going to be a good time for Duncan. We'll go A.J. Brown in that one. Ultimately, I do think that Blaine has a slight edge just with that bottom half, the wide receiver, the flex, the tight end. Duncan's really going to need another monster performance from Dak. He's going to need the Jets to do what the Jets do against Josh Allen. And he's going to need Eckler to explode and Brian Robinson to have another explosion game to have a chance. I think it's possible, but ultimately I think that Blaine does win and put himself in a good position to for a little matchup here down the stretch because he's got me next week. All right, so anyway, Hogs are playing somebody, I can't remember, UNC Greensboro, I believe, Friday. I think we have another game in between there too. The Duke game is fastly approaching. They did lose to Arizona. They did beat Michigan State. So, I think that we probably have a pretty good shot at beating them still. But defense has got to be a lot better, a lot better. So, anyways, that's all I got this week, fellas. Y'all stay safe. Good luck this week. And as always, woo pig.